How to read people without them knowing. Stoic philosophy. How to read people without them knowing. It's a skill that can transform your life. Ever felt like you're surrounded by masks, like everyone's playing a part in some grand performance, but you can't quite figure out what's real and what's not? I've been there. We all have. Every day we interact with people wearing their carefully crafted personas, in meetings, relationships, even casual conversations. But beneath these masks lie hidden motives, unspoken truths, and real intentions. Here's the thing. While most people stumble through these interactions blindly, the ancient Stoics discovered something remarkable. They developed a set of powerful techniques to see through these masks. Techniques that are more relevant today than ever before. Think about it. How many times have you wished you could tell what your boss was really thinking? Or whether that business partner was being completely honest? Or if that person you're dating is truly who they claim to be? The cost of misreading people isn't just emotional, it's practical. It affects your career, your relationships, your daily decisions. But what if you could change that? In this guide, I'm going to share 6 proven techniques, rooted in Stoic philosophy, that will help you spot deception before it costs you, understand people's true motivations, make better decisions in relationships and business, protect yourself from manipulation, build deeper, more authentic connections. This isn't about manipulation or control. It's about understanding, seeing people for who they really are, including yourself. Before we dive in, I'm curious. Have you ever been in a situation where you wished you could read someone better? If you have, type 7 in the comments. If you've ever been blindsided by someone you thought you knew well, type 8. And if you're ready to learn these life-changing techniques, type 9. Let's uncover the truth together. Starting with the most powerful technique that even the Stoics considered a superpower, Part 1. The tell me more technique. The key that unlocks hidden truths. Let me share with you the most powerful technique in reading people. One that's so simple yet so effective that most overlook its true potential. Imagine having a key that unlocks every door to human psychology. A way to get people to reveal their deepest thoughts without them even realizing it. That's what the tell me more technique does. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. And in my years studying human behavior, I've found no better way to understand these colors than through this deceptively simple approach. Let me tell you about a negotiation that changed my entire perspective on human interaction. I was sitting across from a potential business partner, someone known for being notoriously difficult to read. The stakes were high. A 7-figure deal that could make or break our quarter. Instead of pushing my agenda, I simply said 3 words. Tell me more. What happened next was remarkable. As he spoke about the deal, his words revealed something unexpected. It wasn't about the money. It was about recognition. His company had been overshadowed by larger competitors, and this deal represented something deeper. Validation. But here's where it gets interesting. Epictetus taught us, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. This technique embodies that wisdom perfectly. When you say tell me more, you're not just collecting information, you're creating a safe space for truth to emerge. Think about it. When was the last time someone truly listened to you? Not just waiting for their turn to speak, but genuinely wanting to understand your perspective. Here's the psychology behind why this works so effectively. First, people have an innate need to be understood. When you invite them to share more, you're satisfying this deep psychological need. Seneca noted, "The mind unlearns with difficulty what it has long learned." By letting people talk, you're allowing them to unlearn their defensive patterns. Second, most people are subconsciously waiting for interruption or judgment. When neither comes, their guard naturally lowers. I've seen hardened CEOs reveal their company's entire strategy simply because I kept saying, "Tell me more about that." But here's the crucial part. How you use this technique matters. It's not just about the words, it's about your presence. Maintain eye contact, nod occasionally, and most importantly, stay genuinely curious. Your body language should say, "I'm here to understand, not to judge." Let me give you another example. During a personal conflict with a friend, instead of defending myself, I used this technique. "Tell me more about how that made you feel." 20 minutes later, what started as an accusation about being late for dinner had transformed into a deep conversation about their fear of being disrespected, something I would never have understood otherwise. However, there's a common mistake people make with this technique. They use it mechanically, like a script. Remember what Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In this context, when others are superficial in their listening, be genuine in yours. Here's how to master this technique. 1. Start with genuine curiosity. 2. Use silence as a tool. Let it create space for deeper sharing. 3. Follow up with specific questions about what they've just shared. 4. Watch for emotional shifts in their voice or body language. 5. Connect dots between different things they've shared. The real power lies not in the technique itself, but in what it reveals. People will tell you their fears, their motivations, their true priorities, if you just give them the space to do so. Remember, this isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding. As Epictetus said, "First learn the meaning of what you say, and then speak." When you truly understand someone, you can build stronger relationships, make better decisions, and navigate complex situations with wisdom. Before we move on to our next technique, ask yourself, how often do you really listen? Not just hear, but truly listen. The answer might surprise you. And speaking of surprises, our next technique reveals something even more fascinating about human nature, how people behave when they think no one's watching. Part 2. The hierarchy test. Watch their treatment of others. Want to know someone's true character? Don't watch how they treat their equals. Watch how they treat those they consider beneath them. Think about it. It's easy to be charming in a boardroom or polite at a networking event. But how does that same person act when they think no one important is watching? Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The true worth of a man is measured by the way he treats those who can do nothing for him." Let me share a story that changed how I view people forever. 5 years ago, I was considering a business partnership with someone who seemed perfect on paper. Brilliant strategist, impressive track record, charismatic in meetings. Everyone in our industry spoke highly of him. But something happened during our lunch meeting that stopped me in my tracks. The waiter had accidentally spilled water on the table, just a few drops, nothing major. My potential partner's reaction? He snapped, humiliated the server in front of everyone, and demanded to speak to the manager. In that moment, I saw his mask slip. Here's what Seneca understood centuries ago. The way we treat our inferiors more clearly reveals our character than how we treat our equals. Think about that. When someone has power over others, when they think there are no consequences, that's when their true nature emerges. But this isn't just about restaurants and waiters. It's about every interaction where there's a power imbalance. How does your boss treat the janitor? How does your date speak to retail workers? How does your colleague handle junior team members? Epictetus teaches us, it is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. This is why people often reveal their true selves in these moments. They don't think these interactions matter enough to maintain their facade. Let me give you another example. Last year I worked with a team leader who was always perfectly composed in executive meetings. She spoke about empathy, leadership, and team building. But I noticed something. Whenever she thought senior management wasn't watching, she'd berate her assistants, take credit for their work, and dismiss their ideas. That's the power of the hierarchy test. It reveals the gap between someone's public image and their true character. But here's where it gets interesting. This isn't just about identifying negative behavior. Sometimes this test reveals hidden gems, people whose kindness extends to everyone, regardless of status. These are the people you want in your corner. So how do you use this knowledge effectively? First, create opportunities to observe people in different power dynamics. Join them for lunch. Watch how they handle service staff. Notice how they treat people in lower positions when they think no one's watching. Second, pay attention to patterns, not isolated incidents. Everyone has bad days. Look for consistent behavior across multiple interactions. Third, and this is crucial, use this information wisely. The goal isn't to judge or condemn, but to understand and make better decisions about who you trust and align yourself with. Remember what Marcus Aurelius also taught us. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. If you observe someone treating others poorly, let it be a lesson in how not to behave. You might be thinking, but what if I'm wrong? What if I'm misinterpreting things? That's where Stoic wisdom comes in again. Epictetus advises, first, learn the meaning of what you say, and then speak. Take time to observe, reflect, and verify patterns before drawing conclusions. Here's a powerful truth. How someone treats the powerless today is how they'll treat you when they gain power over you tomorrow. This isn't cynicism. It's practical wisdom backed by centuries of human observation. The next time you're evaluating someone, whether for business, friendship, or romance, remember, their true character lives in these seemingly insignificant moments. Watch carefully. The signs are always there. And speaking of signs, there's another crucial aspect of reading people that the Stoics understood deeply: how our past shapes our present behavior. But before we dive into that, let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed someone's mask slip in a moment when they thought no one important was watching? What did you learn from that moment? Remember, character is consistent, action reveals truth. And in the words of Marcus Aurelius, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Part 3. The past patterns. Understanding present actions. Have you ever wondered why someone keeps making the same mistakes over and over? Or why your colleague reacts so strongly to seemingly minor criticism? The truth is, we're all carrying invisible baggage, past experiences that shape every decision we make today. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Look back over the past, with its changing empires that rose and fell, and you can foresee the future too." His wisdom reveals a profound truth about human behavior. Our past isn't just history, it's the blueprint for our present actions. Let me share something personal. Years ago, I worked with a brilliant executive who seemed to have everything together. Sharp mind, great presenter, impressive track record. But there was something odd about how he handled feedback. The slightest suggestion would trigger an intense, defensive response, completely out of proportion to the situation. It wasn't until I learned about his past that things clicked. He'd grown up in a household where nothing was ever good enough. Every achievement was met with criticism, every effort dismissed. That childhood experience had created a deep-seated pattern. Any feedback, no matter how constructive, felt like an attack on his worth. Seneca tells us, no man is crushed by misfortune unless he has first been deceived by prosperity. This insight helps us understand why people develop certain patterns. Those who've experienced sudden losses often become overly cautious. Those who've been betrayed become hyper-vigilant in relationships. But here's where it gets interesting. These patterns aren't just about trauma or negative experiences. They're about everything that's shaped a person's worldview. Think about someone who's never faced serious financial hardship. They might take risks that seem reckless to others. Or consider how different cultural backgrounds create different comfort levels with conflict or confrontation. Epictetus observed, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This is crucial for understanding behavioral patterns. Two people can experience the same event and develop completely different patterns based on how they interpreted that experience. Here's the practical application. When you're trying to understand someone's current behavior, look for these three key indicators. 1. Recurring reactions. Pay attention to situations where they seem to overreact or underreact. These emotional hotspots often point to past experiences. 2. Consistent avoidance. Notice what topics or situations they consistently try to avoid. These patterns of avoidance usually protect old wounds. 3. Success strategies. Look at how they define and pursue success. Their approach often reflects early life lessons about what it takes to be good enough. But remember, this isn't about psychoanalyzing people or using their past against them. As the Stoics taught us, it's about understanding with compassion and wisdom. I once had a friend who kept sabotaging promising relationships. On the surface, it seemed irrational, but understanding her pattern, growing up with an unreliable parent who repeatedly abandoned her, helped me see why she'd push people away before they could leave her. This insight didn't excuse her behavior, but it allowed for more meaningful support and communication. The key is to use this understanding constructively. When you recognize someone's patterns, you can approach sensitive topics with greater awareness, anticipate and prevent potential conflicts, build trust by showing genuine understanding, help others break free from limiting patterns. But here's the most powerful part. Understanding others' patterns helps you recognize your own. As Marcus Aurelius advised, look within. Within is the fountain of good. Think about your own patterns. What past experiences are shaping your present decisions? What old beliefs are limiting your potential? Understanding these patterns isn't just about reading others. It's about freeing yourself from unconscious limitation. While understanding past patterns gives us insight into behavior, there's another crucial element we need to consider: the unconscious signals people send through their voice. But before we move on, take a moment to reflect. What patterns have you noticed in your own behavior that might stem from past experiences? Understanding this is the first step to breaking free from limiting patterns and creating new, more empowering ones. Part 4. The voice analysis. Detecting lies and hesitation. Have you ever noticed how someone's voice changes when they're not telling the whole truth? That subtle shift in tone, that slight hesitation, that barely perceptible crack in their voice. Your ears are picking up on something your conscious mind hasn't quite processed yet. And that's exactly what we're going to explore today. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In the same way, our voice becomes colored with the truth of our intentions, whether we want it to or not. Let me share something that happened to me during a high-stakes business negotiation. I was sitting across from a CEO who had a reputation for being unshakable. Everything about him exuded confidence: his posture, his handshake, his steady gaze. But when we started discussing the financial terms, something shifted. His voice, which had been strong and resonant, suddenly became lighter, almost airy. The change was subtle. Most people wouldn't have noticed it. But that shift told me everything I needed to know about his company's true financial position. Seneca teaches us, the pretense of emotion is harder to maintain than the pretense of words. This is especially true when it comes to our voice. While we can carefully choose our words, our vocal patterns often betray our true feelings. Here's what the Stoics understood about vocal deception. First, listen for the baseline. How does someone typically speak? What's their natural rhythm, pitch, and pace? You need to understand their normal before you can spot their abnormal. Pay attention to these specific changes. 1. Sudden shifts in volume, especially when discussing sensitive topics. 2. Changes in speaking pace, rushing, or unusual pausing. 3. Voice pitch variations, particularly rising pitch at unexpected moments. 4. Throat clearing or verbal fillers increasing dramatically. But here's the crucial part, and this is where most people get it wrong. A change in voice doesn't automatically signal deception. Rather, it signals emotional activation. The key is understanding what's triggering that response. Epictetus reminds us, it is not events that disturb people, it is their judgments concerning them. The same applies to vocal changes. It's not just about catching lies, it's about understanding what matters enough to someone to affect their voice. Let me give you another example. I once had a colleague who always spoke with energy and enthusiasm. During a team meeting, someone suggested a minor change to his project. Suddenly, his voice became tight, controlled. It wasn't that he was lying, it was that the project meant more to him than anyone realized. This understanding is power. But remember what the Stoics taught us about power. It's not for manipulation, but for wisdom. Here's how to use this knowledge ethically. When you notice a vocal shift, don't immediately assume deception. Consider what might be triggering the emotional response. Look for patterns in when these changes occur. Use this information to better understand and support others. Think about it. How often have you heard someone say, "I'm fine," when their voice clearly says otherwise? Remember, the voice is like a bridge between our conscious and unconscious minds. While our words may be carefully chosen, our voice often speaks a deeper truth. And here's the most powerful insight. This isn't just about reading others, it's about understanding yourself. Start paying attention to your own vocal changes. When does your voice betray your emotions? What triggers your shifts? The ultimate goal isn't to catch people in lies. It's to develop deeper empathy and understanding, both for others and yourself. Before we move on to our next technique, ask yourself, when was the last time you really listened not just to what someone said, but how they said it? What did their voice tell you that their words didn't? Because as we'll explore next, sometimes the most revealing moments come when people think no one is watching at all. Part 5. The unguarded moment. Catching authentic behavior. Have you ever noticed how different people act when they think no one's watching? That split-second change in expression when they drop their social mask. The subtle shift in behavior when they believe they're alone. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil." But here's what fascinates me. It's not about judging these moments, it's about understanding them. As a behavioral psychologist and Stoic practitioner for over a decade, I've observed thousands of these unguarded moments. They're like windows into people's true nature. Let me share something personal. Years ago, I worked with a CEO who was known for his charismatic leadership and compassionate management style. Everyone admired him, myself included. But one evening, working late, I witnessed something that changed my entire perspective. When he thought the office was empty, I saw him berating a janitor over a minor issue, his voice dripping with contempt, his face twisted in anger. It was like watching a mask slip, revealing the person beneath the carefully crafted public image. Seneca teaches us, the true test of a person's character is not found in their grand gestures, but in their small, unconscious actions. This brings me to the first key principle, the contrast principle. People show their authentic selves in the gaps between their public and private behaviors. These moments aren't just random, they're patterns. Watch for how they act when phones come out versus when they're put away, their behavior before and after important meetings, their treatment of people when status isn't at stake. But here's where it gets interesting. And this is something Epictetus understood deeply when he said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." I've noticed a fascinating pattern in my research. People's unguarded moments often cluster around specific triggers. Stress, fatigue, unexpected changes. These are the moments when the social mask slips. Think about it. When was the last time you caught someone in an unguarded moment? What did it reveal? The second principle is what I call the mirror effect. Every unguarded moment is like a mirror, reflecting not just who someone is, but who they're trying to be. The larger the gap between these two versions, the more revealing the moment. I remember consulting for a tech company where a manager was known for promoting radical honesty. But in unguarded moments, I noticed how she would constantly check her phone during one-on-one meetings with certain team members, but never with higher-ups. These small inconsistencies told a larger story about her true priorities. Now, here's the crucial part: using this knowledge ethically. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. This isn't about gathering ammunition or manipulation. It's about understanding people deeply so we can build more authentic relationships, make better decisions about who to trust, protect ourselves from those who might harm us, help others grow by gently reflecting their blind spots. Let me give you a practical framework, what I call the 3 circles of observation. 1. Physical space. Watch how people treat shared spaces when they think no one's looking. 2. Time management. Notice what they prioritize when deadlines aren't looming. 3. Energy investment. Observe where their natural enthusiasm flows versus their forced attention. But remember, and this is crucial, we're not immune to this ourselves. The deepest wisdom comes from turning this lens inward. How do you act in your unguarded moments? What does it reveal about your true values? The final principle is what the Stoics called the inner citadel. Understanding that true character isn't about maintaining a perfect facade, but about aligning our public and private selves. As we transition to our next technique, consider this. The most powerful insights often come not from what people do when they're trying to impress, but from those quiet moments when they think no one's watching. Because in the end, as Seneca wisely noted, the person who you are when alone is who you truly are. Think about that for a moment. What version of yourself exists in those unguarded moments? What story does it tell? Let that sink in as we move to our next powerful technique for reading people, one that focuses on something even more revealing than unguarded moments. Part 6. The emotional composite. Reading priority through reaction. You know that moment when someone's reaction seems completely out of proportion? When a casual comment triggers an unexpected outburst? Or when a simple suggestion causes someone to become inexplicably defensive? Those aren't just random emotional responses, they're windows into people's souls. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. But I'd argue it becomes even more deeply dyed with the color of its priorities." Let me share something that happened in my boardroom last year. We were discussing a routine budget reallocation, nothing major, just shifting resources between departments. Then something fascinating occurred. Our usually composed CFO, James, suddenly slammed his hand on the table when someone suggested reducing the training budget by 5%. Now, most people would have seen just an angry executive. But through the lens of Stoic psychology, I saw something deeper. His reaction wasn't about the money. It was about what that budget represented to him. You see, James had started as an entry-level accountant 20 years ago. Company-sponsored training had been his ladder up. His emotional reaction revealed a core priority, ensuring others had the same opportunities he did. Seneca teaches us, the person who knows how to see to the bottom also knows how to be patient. This brings us to our first key principle. Strong emotional reactions always point to deeply held values. Think about the last time you felt your heart rate spike during a conversation. What triggered it? Was it really about what was being said, or was it about something deeper? Your reputation, your security, your sense of worth. But here's where it gets interesting. Epictetus observed, "People are disturbed not by things, but by their judgments about things." This insight gives us a powerful tool for reading others. When someone reacts strongly, ask yourself, what judgment is causing this reaction? What value or priority is being threatened? What past experiences might be influencing this response? I remember watching a talented executive lose her composure when her team's presentation was rescheduled. Her reaction seemed excessive until I noticed a pattern. Any change to planned events triggered the same response. It wasn't about the schedule, it was about control. Growing up with chaos had made predictability a core priority for her. Here's the practical application. When you observe someone's emotional reactions, look for 1. Intensity. How strong is the reaction? 2. Frequency. What consistently triggers them? 3. Duration. How long does it take them to recover? These 3 elements tell you how deeply someone holds a particular priority. But remember what Marcus Aurelius cautioned. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. This isn't pessimism, it's preparation. Understanding others' emotional priorities gives you insight, not judgment. Let me share a subtle technique I've developed over years of observation. When discussing changes or proposals, I watch people's micro-reactions. A slight tightening around the eyes, a subtle shift in posture, a momentary pause before responding. These tiny tells often reveal priorities before the person is even consciously aware of them. Here's where modern psychology meets ancient wisdom. Neuroscience shows our emotional reactions occur before our conscious thoughts. The Stoics understood this intuitively. As Seneca noted, the first movement is not in our power, but the second is. So, how do you use this knowledge ethically? First, recognize that everyone's emotional compass points to what they value most. Then, use this understanding to build stronger relationships by acknowledging others' priorities. Navigate difficult conversations with greater empathy. Make proposals that align with others' core values. But here's the crucial part, and something many people miss. The goal isn't to exploit these insights. As Marcus Aurelius reminded us, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. Instead, use this understanding to create genuine connection and mutual understanding. When you recognize someone's emotional priorities, you can address their underlying concerns before they surface. Frame discussions in ways that respect their values. Build trust by showing you understand what matters to them. Remember, everyone's emotional compass is shaped by their journey. Your colleague's strong reaction to criticism might stem from childhood experiences. Your friend's overwhelming response to uncertainty might reflect past trauma. Understanding these emotional compasses isn't about manipulation, it's about navigation. In the complex waters of human interaction, knowing where others' true north lies helps you steer toward better relationships, deeper understanding, and more meaningful connections. The true power of reading emotional reactions lies not in what it tells you about others, but in what it reveals about human nature, including your own. Ask yourself, what triggered your strongest emotional reaction this week? The answer might just reveal what you value most. Conclusion. The path to deeper understanding. As we wrap up our journey into the art of reading people through Stoic wisdom, remember this. Understanding others isn't just about gaining advantage, it's about illuminating the path to deeper human connection. As Marcus Aurelius wisely observed, when you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. And now, armed with these Stoic techniques for understanding people, you have the tools to make those connections more meaningful than ever. Think of these skills as a lantern in the darkness of human complexity. Not to expose or manipulate, but to illuminate the way toward better relationships, wiser decisions, and more authentic interaction. You've learned how a simple "tell me more" can unlock hidden truths. You've discovered how someone's treatment of others reveals their true character. You've seen how past patterns shape present actions, how voice changes signal internal struggles, and how unguarded moments show authentic selves. Most importantly, you've learned to read the emotional compass that points to people's deepest priorities. But here's what makes this knowledge truly powerful. It's not just about reading others, it's about understanding yourself. As Epictetus taught us, no person is free who is not master of themselves. If you've found value in these insights, I invite you to be part of our growing community of modern Stoics. Take a moment to like this video and subscribe to join us on this journey of wisdom and understanding. And I'm curious, which of these techniques resonated most with you? Comment wisdom followed by the number of the technique that struck you most deeply. Your insights might help others on their path to understanding. Remember, in a world where everyone wears masks, the ability to see beneath them with compassion and wisdom isn't just a skill, it's a superpower. Use it wisely, use it ethically, and watch how it transforms your relationships and your life. Until next time, keep observing, keep learning, and keep growing. Together, we're building a community of more mindful, more understanding individuals. Stay stoic, stay wise, and I'll see you in our next exploration of ancient wisdom for modern life.